The avalanche has already started. It is too late for the pebbles to vote.
Babylon 5 was an American science fiction show from the 90s. It was a very unusual television show. It was mostly written by one guy, and it had continuity through the whole 5 seasons. It built quite complex plots for a TV show, and it was a great tickle for the neurons. It introduces to us two races that are millions of years older than us or other aliens that live on the galaxy, the Vorlons and Shadows. Both races seem to have manipulated human race and the whole galaxy from the prehistoric era in some way. During the show's run, they want the younger races of galaxy to choose between their opposite ideologies. Vorlons believe in order, and Shadows rely on chaos. It is great entertainment, but it also showcases the education level of its writer. This philosophical debate of order and chaos has been raging on for our known universe. Let's examine where these philosophical concepts stem from. Vorlons are on the side of order. They speak in incomprehensible aphorisms. The prime question they ask from the lesser races is, "Who are you?" Order and structure is a very old philosophical riddle. The first great philosophers of Athens were figures who tried to form a logical structure of the world. They rejected the chaotic prehistoric myths and legends that were the center of political life in Athens, although not completely abandoning them. From the great Plato's writings, we get poetry and stories, and the reason for that is to offer something for men that can't be philosophical thinkers. Socrates made a clear observation that morals are connected to the mystical afterlife for most citizens of Athens. If you remove the mythos, then you are left with the power-hungry animals. Here we get the first clear trait of Vorlons, manipulating religion in order to create moral code. Vorlons have made themselves to look like angels to other races. In very Plato's essence, they have captured the original myths and manufactured them in the name of soft power. These small nudges in psyche give them tremendous power in the spiritual and moral structure for other races that are millions of years behind them. But even with this religious power, they still ask the question, "Who are you?" A very complex question to answer in philosophical sense. It was centuries after the fall of Athens when the Frenchman René Descartes coined the famous phrase, "I think, therefore I am," and brought along it the concept of dualism, how body and soul are separate, and most importantly, he formed the mechanical concept of the world, which God as the clockmaker has made the universe tick around us. Descartes' idea had enormous influence on continental philosophy, even though he couldn't answer them in a satisfactory sense. His idea of mechanics even influenced Isaac Newton. During the Age of Enlightenment, the Europe was tired of centuries of religious warfare. The philosophy had to form a more rigid and moral tone that would give us those golden men of morals that the ancient philosophers of Greece were looking for, or more like dreaming about. In synthesis of these ideas, we get German idealism, or German metaphysics, and that is very much the end for Vorlon philosophy in many ways. Strict morals that are carefully thought out, and very clear structure to the universe, where everything works in unison to the Holy Ghost. Vorlons are the absolute form of perfect philosophical structure. They don't have biological bodies anymore, but they have evolved into a form of pure energy. German metaphysics is very hard text to read, by the way, and it seems like Vorlons are incomprehensible as the German idealists themselves. But let's get back to Plato. While forming the hierarchy for the universe, the highest point was the theory of forms that exists outside of our world with perfect examples of triangles, colors, and etc. Obviously, Vorlons are at the top of the chain since they have this metaphysical state and have left the puny biological body behind them. But what is at the bottom of this Plato's worldview? There is an allegory of the cave. People who are trapped inside a cave and have never seen the sunlight. They only know the projections of shadows that are portrayed on the wall by their rulers. It is a very clever allegory how the world of senses fools most of us, but it is also a very prehistoric concept, since shadows and underworld were pagan concepts for afterlife, something that Plato and Socrates were trying to myth-bust. So, now we have the opposing players for the Vorlons, who reject the order of reason. The shadows believe in chaos and see it as the driving force for progress. The chaotic nature helps living things to evolve, and they want to speed this up by creating wars and conflict in the universe. They manipulate the lesser races like Vorlons. Instead of spiritual life, they focus purely on the political force of lesser races. They provide assistance to races that show potential and resilience. It is a very Machiavellian philosophy on life that rejects all moral codes in the name of getting things done.
Think about it, Captain. Look at the long history of human struggle. 6,000 years of recorded wars, bloodshed, atrocities beyond description. But look at what came out of all of that. We've gone to the stars, split the atom, written sonnets. We never would have come this far if we hadn't been at each other's throats, evolving our way up, inch by inch.
But even shadows hold deep philosophical pondering underneath them. When Descartes coined the phrase, "I think, therefore I am," there rose a philosophical question of I. What is self-consciousness and what is at the center of our psyche? At the end of Enlightenment era, we get dark metaphysical thoughts of Arthur Schopenhauer. The pessimistic conclusion is that there is nothing there. There is nothing but will and desire that we see on animals. Unlike their counterparts Vorlons, shadows have a biological form, and it is very non-humanoid form. They are shaped like insects, and insects definitely have no consciousness. They have only pure biological code in them that makes them just react to nature. They are very much the definition of willpower of nature. This pure animalistic desire is what Schopenhauer's stream of philosophy has opened to us. Ones like Nietzsche and Freud borrow very much from Schopenhauer's conclusions that there is nothing special inside of us, just non-moral instincts that help us to survive in chaotic nature. You could say that some way shadows are philosophically more evolved than Vorlons if you want to be provocative. But I would say that they have fallen into a philosophical dead end which purely focuses on individual, so the rest of the universe disappears. This is very much modern post-structuralism concept, where there is nothing tangible or universal in the world anymore, just different points of view. In the show, we never hear shadows speaking to anyone. That is exactly the opposite of classical philosophy, where individual and universe is being built on communication and interaction. Individual in us rises from the language game that we play with each other. Well, I could go on forever on this topic, but I think that gives you a good overview and starting point to break down the show's hidden symbolism and concepts that it brings through its runtime. It is a better show when watched for the second time, which can be said on many TV shows. Oh, and I leave you with this. Since it is a perfect example of how mystics can only speak with beautiful aphorisms about something that has no word for.
What we perceive as God is the byproduct of our search for God. It may simply be an appreciation of the light, pure and unblemished, not understanding that it comes from us. Sometimes we stand in front of the light and assume that we are the center of the universe. God looks astonishingly like we do. Or we turn to look at our shadow and assume that all is darkness. If we allow ourselves to get in the way, we defeat the purpose, which is to use the light of our search to illuminate the wall in all its beauty and in all its flaws, and in so doing better understand the world around us.
Ah, yes, but what is truth and what is God?
Truth is a river.
Oh, yes. And what is God?
God is the mouth of the river.